Sunday after service inspirations with Nikki Jones. Nikki Jones. Sunday after service inspirations with Nikki Jones. Mrs. Jones. Sunday after service inspirations with Nikki Jones. Nikki Jones. Sunday after service inspirations with Nikki Jones. Mrs. Jones.
Reeling it in, yes. Welcome to Sunday After Service Inspirations. I am your girl, Nikki Jones. I'm ecstatic to be here today. Listen, it's a great day in Zamunda. And it's a great day here in Southfield, Michigan, also known as Metro Detroit. We are excited about today's show because why? We're going to talk about how to talk. Yes, we're going to talk about communication.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Communication.
We need that.
How you communicate.
Yes.
Huh?
Mm-hmm.
Listen. Huh?
Mm-hmm.
Walls. Amen.
Uh-huh.
How you communicate makes the difference in what the hearer is hearing and receiving.
Okay.
Praise God. And so this is what we came to talk about on today. We're talking about communication. And I am the host today, yours truly, Nikki Jones. Yes.
All right.
Yes. And to my left,
Got that right.
immediate left, we are celebrating today the personage of the illustrious engineer of this show, pastor, prophetess, evangelist, teacher, Dr. April Berry. Yes. I'm practicing slow communication so that I don't say a lot of unnecessary words.
You're doing pregnant pauses.
Pregnant pauses with purpose. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So help our
pregnant when the baby do.
help our understanding.
Wrong show.
Help
Yes,
our
helping
understanding.
our understanding, and to my right, the vivacious, the presidential, the pastoral, and the therapeutic, sister of sisters, teacher of teachers, one and only one, Pastor Denise Thomas.
Tis I.
Y'all like these intros? I like this intro. And to her right,
She is not pregnant.
Yeah, hold that pregnant stuff.
To her right, we have joining us again today. I'm so excited to see you and the Mr. Ryan. I want to introduce and present to some again the illustrious RiMisha Simpkins of Out of Mind Counseling Center.
Hey, greetings.
Greetings, salutations,
Beautiful
felicitations.
people.
Yes. And to her right, please introduce him.
This is none other than Mr. Minister and friend Ryan Fluker, my honey bear.
Happy to be here.
That is all right. You hear me?
If I recall, the last time that I experienced the presence of Mr. Ryan Fluker, he was just a friend.
But you say he's just a friend.
Oh, baby, you got what I need. Well,
but you say he's just a friend.
not anymore.
Not anymore.
He's a friend.
He's a friend and
You hear me?
one that sticks closer.
Clearly. That was communicated clearly.
Yes.
Clear.
Yes.
Clear.
Yes.
I own that thing now.
Yes. Listen, we came to talk about it today. Communication is so important, and I am I'm just excited because we have this panel of people here to talk about it, because we're all communicators in some way, shape, form, or fashion. And so are you. Whether you believe it or not, you communicate a lot of things, whether you say it verbally or whether you say it with your body language, or whether you say it with your eyes. Just your eyes can communicate so much to someone.
Yes.
And yes, I'm learning. I am learning.
Yes.
I'm learning that my eyes really do communicate.
Oh, yes, yours do.
Yes, they do.
Your
And
face.
yes.
Your face?
my whole facial expression.
Yes.
Yes. My
Yeah.
facial expressions tell on me often. And
yes,
so
ma'am.
we're going to talk about it today. And I made a post a couple of days ago, and people responded. A lot of people responded to that post about communication. What is healthy communication like between two people who are in relationship? And it doesn't have to be male and female. It could be my sister relationship here. It could be my brother relationship. It could be my mother, my father, whoever you're in a relationship with, whatever those roles are, there has to be some level of communication and understanding.
Absolutely.
So it doesn't matter what the relationship style is or the relationship definition is, but you still have to learn how to communicate. I have to learn how to communicate with April Berry, our engineer. I communicate with her. I communicate with you. I communicate with you. We all communicate with one another. And then we communicate in relationships. And sometimes when people have different personalities, different temperaments, if you will, they have different ways of communicating and different expectations. Can we say that word again?
Absolutely.
Because expectations sometimes are the filter in which you communicate.
Perception.
As well as perception.
Perception
Because
is reality.
you feel that whatever your understanding is, that somebody understands it when you speak it to them, and that might not be the truth. Their perception might not be what you intended to communicate.
But it's their reality.
But it's their reality. And so that's what we came to talk about today. A lot of people were commenting on, what relationships for people who are opposites, for opposites, if you're an introvert and they're an extrovert, or if you're opposites because you do this set of activities and they don't really participate in those type of activities, but you participate in these type. So opposites attract. We know that, right? Opposites normally attract sometimes, because you see what you don't do in this other person, and sometimes it's attractive. Am I right? Am I right about it? And so then you're attracted to that person, and then you start communicating. You find out that you have different communication styles, different ways that you hear. Everybody has a different filter that they hear with.
Correct. Correct.
So that's what we want to talk about today. What do you think the best way is to communicate? A lot of people talk about repeating things. Is that one of the things that you do?
I don't know if repeating is good, but what I do know that's good is if you ask the person that you're communicating to parrot back to you what they heard.
Okay.
That way you know what they heard. They may not have heard what you said. It came through all their filters and their paradigms. So asking them if there's an issue with communication, asking them to parrot back what they heard is a good way to understand what they got from what you said.
And then you can offer some clarity
You can
based
tweak
on
it.
what they said.
You can tweak
what
it
they
so that
said they
can-
heard.
so that they can understand.
Help us, Ms. Counselor.
We call that reflective listening.
Yes.
There's two basic concepts in communication. That is active listening. That is when you're actively hearing. The ideal is that we have to be hearers first, right? You got to hear it first.
Yes.
And oftentimes people struggle because they're thinking about what they want to say while the other person is speaking, so much so that your interpretation, your hearing in your own head is your thoughts that are getting in the way of what someone is saying. So you want to be present. So often life is so busy that we are mindless while speaking.
Ooh.
We are mindless while listening. So I'm going to coach you first to be mindful and present. That would do half the work. And then you want to do, as Pastor Denise was saying, you want to reflect, as in to say, Miss April, what I hear you saying is this. And then allow that person to repeat it. And if they correct you, receive it, because they're not correcting you as and say something's wrong with you. They're correcting the way you heard it, which allows the person that's speaking to maybe say it a different way. How I may say something to Rye Guy is different than I'll say it to you, Nikki. How I say something to you, Miss Nikki, is going to be different than when I say to you, Pastor D. So I may need to change how I am saying something in order for the person to receive it. So we want to have both active listening. That means I'm actively participating in what you're saying. That means I'm not on the cell phone. I'm not checking messages. I'm not doing stuff like, go ahead, I'm listening. I heard what you say. For those that are listening, I am literally holding my cell phone in my hand. And I'm like, okay, go ahead, babe, what you were saying? All right, I'm listening. Yeah, Mom, what you were saying? That does not make someone feel like they're important.
I got a question about that.
Okay.
Social media, live broadcasts. I am not. You got to help me because it's probably just me because it goes on all the time. When you come on and you say, "Well, I'm going to wait for some more people to jump on," or you got 100 people and you're greeting
Each one.
"Hey, John," "Hey," it's something wrong with me because that's so annoying to me. You got me sitting here to hear what you're saying. "Hey, Sister Susie, how you doing?" And then have a whole then come back. Is that new etiquette? Is that something new that I've missed out on? Because I see it all the time, and it's so annoying to me.
Why she looking at me? I have done that. I think a lot of times when I go live, I want to acknowledge people who have come on, and so I want to acknowledge that they're there. You know, whatever it is that they believe that I'm getting ready to say or they're waiting for me to say, it's an acknowledgement of their presence. For me, that's what it is. I can't speak to everybody, but for me, if I start doing that, it's because I want to acknowledge, oh, thank you for joining, blah, 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 and then I'll keep going and continue. Other than that, I don't know what else to say. Like,
I'm going to join you in that. I think it's important that we start considering about to come into the world is metaverse as another way of coming into a room. So Pastor D, right now, though, all we here are physically with each other. If you came into the room, and if Miss Nikki, Miss April, Mr. Ryan, and myself are in the room, if you came in the room and we were just talking to each other, did not acknowledge you, how would you feel? Ignore it. Social media platform, it's like you coming into my room. So if I am hosting something and you come in, for me to speak to you is acknowledging that you've come into the room.
So you speak to everybody that comes into that room.
The goal is when you first start, that has become of a custom, as in to say, well, I'm inviting you in. Hey, how you doing? The reason why you can't speak to so many people is because by the time 500, 1,000 step in the room is just, you're unable to do it. No different if you was having a real event. By the time after 20, 30, 40 people come, you running around like, hey, you can't have valuable conversations with people, but you still don't say thank you for being here. Hey, I don't know everybody's name, and I don't want to get in trouble. That's what we say by saying everybody's name, but thank you for being here. At a later time, a correspondence will be sent to you. What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, I think there's a balance between welcoming and then being punctual. I think that's probably part of the annoyance, because I've been in that situation too, whereas it's like, okay, the live starts at 7, it's 7:10 and you're still greeting Mary, Joe, and James. At that point it's like, okay, my time, I'm feeling like my time is disrespected. So you got to balance welcoming everybody, which you can do really in a sentence or two. Hey, how's everybody? Welcome. Thank you so much for joining. Versus, disrespecting the time of those who were on that live or whatever when they were supposed to.
And I know it's called social media for a reason, but sometimes I just don't feel that social.
That's a generational gap to it. Honestly.
Y'all got to pray for me because I don't feel that social.
Because to you, it's like, what we doing? What you talking about? I thought you were supposed to be talking about the message. But you ain't saying nothing yet. I've been over here till 7:30. You say you going to start? You say you going to start?
Read me.
You had said.
Read me.
You say you going to be over here? Oh, heck, I got to get out of here.
Read me.
She ain't said nothing about the project.
I'm going to go off and come back about 15 minutes
later.
later.
What I do. I come back when they've done all that. And
a lot of times I think they don't want to repeat themselves, because if they have something specific that they want to say, like say, they want to talk about a new release or a book or whatever the case may be, maybe they're waiting until more people come in until they actually release the information so they don't have to say it so many times.
I'm going to have to do a geriatric
Social media. That could be your thing, Pastor D.
yeah.
You could be like
That could be
social
your thing.
media
It's gonna start
for
at
those after
7.
50.
If y'all here not, it's gonna start at 7.
It's gonna start at 7.
Y'all just have to catch the repeat. 'Cause-
Now you playing, but I'm serious.
and
There is
so
no
am I.
real person that you know of that is older that is leading social media.
No,
That's funky like you? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
I tell you right now, you have thousands of followers.
you do. She knows she does. She knows
Real
she
talk.
does.
You get on there and be
she
like,
does.
listen, this is generational gap. I'm not talking to nobody else. Hello, okay. If it's 7 o'clock, and say that
Let's start.
boldly.
Yeah, let's start.
This is the problem.
We're gonna start at 7.
And if you miss it, then you'll catch the repeat.
catch the
We
repeat.
moving on.
Period.
We just moving on.
Yeah.
I think that's a good thing. I think you should, cause Sunday school, everybody don't have Sunday school anymore. I think you should
No.
do Sunday school early in the morning on a Sunday at 8 a.m. and do Sunday. That's my idea. Or maybe, it don't have to be in the morning. It could be Sunday evening school. I mean,
So what I hear you saying is there's a place where
We
you
done
feel
switched.
disrespected, or you feel like some people are wasting your time.
I do feel, and so what I'll do, I won't. If they start at 7, I won't come on till 7:15, 7:20. I'm just gonna miss whatever I miss because
I
I'm not gonna
understand.
sit there while you talk about. Oh, I'm so sorry, your cat died. I'm so. I'm just
Right. Okay, so what I hear
I'm
you
not
say
gonna do
is
it. Not gonna
you
do
would
it.
like people when they are broadcasting if they're going to start the content at a certain time to actually do it at the time they're
But I
starting.
know I can't change the culture, of social media. I get that.
no,
Yeah.
but you can create your own.
Yeah,
There you go.
I get that.
You can
Absolutely.
create your own space.
Just so y'all don't think something wrong with me. I know I can't change that. That's
No,
all
no.
I-
You
I
can't
did-
change the culture because that's what Second Ebenezer did. Second Ebenezer changed the culture of church service starting whenever it wanted to be. It starts at 10. I don't care who there. It starts at 10.
It starts at 10.
Period.
And people start
Bible
coming on
study
time.
They start coming on time because then when they start coming late, they was like, "Ooh,
Couldn't get no
And-
seat.
They done missed
Couldn't get no
everything.
And Bishop M was not going to go back. He was
Right.
like, "Oh, you'll catch it next time."
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
So
oh
you
yeah.
can change it. You can change
Yeah.
it because if that person that starts on time, they'll know. Wait a minute, let me get on here
Right.
because she not gonna repeat herself, and I don't want to hear what she got to say. So you can.
She gonna put the meat of it
She
at
gonna put the meat-
7:01.
And if I come at
You ain't there.
7:15, I'm done.
I done missed out. I
She
just
like,
catch the
let's be
repeat.
the ties that binds. I just love.
Well,
So you can.
to bring it back to listening and communication, though, I think that's an important point because we live in the information age, right, where we're constantly being bombarded with information.
Absolutely.
So for you, Pastor Denise, your frustration is like, okay, I don't have time to absorb all of this content. I've got to filter something out somewhere, somehow. And that's where that frustration comes from. And I think with communication, too, Ray was like, okay, you're talking to somebody, they're on their phone. That's that information. That's that competition that comes into play that can make the communication process nowadays much more difficult than it once was because we have to filter
Yes.
somewhere,
Yes.
somehow.
Yeah.
And what I was doing while you were speaking, whether you know it or not, I was using an active listening skill on you, Pastor Denise. When I brought it back and
So
I
what
said
you
what I hear you
saying
saying. Did you see that thing? But I said what I hear you saying is, and if you notice, you repeated it. Then I said, oh, I understand. Then I said, so this is this. You said, yeah. Then you said, but I know I can't change. But if you are who are watching, if you're listening, notice how she calmed down. Notice it went from I ain't gonna I don't like that to yeah, I know I can't change that.
You didn't psych me.
Notice that, Miss April.
You didn't psych
That
me.
happens. I did though, right? That happens when we properly communicate.
Yes.
If you take the time, you want to tag, go ahead.
But you know what? One of my pet peeves is with active communication. I hate when somebody thinks that they already have an answer before they hear the person out.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
They're ready to give an answer,
Yeah. They haven't listened.
then they haven't
They haven't
listened.
actively
But
listened.
you're already ready to give an answer.
Yeah.
And they haven't even completed their sentence.
I got that real bad.
And then when you hear their sentence, because my mind is like, can you let the person say? Then when you hear their sentence doesn't even relate to what you just said. That's because we're so trying to give an answer right quick.
We playing Family Feud.
Oh, we think we know you.
Right.
That's a whole different story, right?
Yeah.
We think we know you.
Yeah.
I've been around you so much, Miss April, that I know what she's thinking and what she's feeling at all times. So now when you talking, it's just not kismet, okay? It's you gonna say this. No, I was not gonna say that. We forget that people are growing and changing every day.
Yes.
In the interest of new information, my mind may change. So what I thought on last Tuesday
Yeah.
actually could have been changed challenged. That happens all the time in relationships,
Yes, it
right?
does. Yeah.
So we have to be able to slow down and listen, be present. Be present. I'll give you a couple nuggets on it. This is my thing right here.
Come on now.
Before you do that,
communication.
Yes, sir.
When you were talking, I was reminded of a book. We've probably all heard of it, but it's called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. Came out, I believe, late 80s going into the 90s. And one of the habits that he talked about is seek first to understand,
And
then
not
be understood.
Exactly.
Right? And it goes back, really, it's scriptural, because scripture says, be swift or quick to hear, slow to speak.
And
Another
it also
version
says,
says,
"In all thy getting,
Get in
get
there
understanding, right? Another version of that says, lead with your ears and then follow with your tongue.
Absolutely.
And I think we can all agree that when we lead first with our mouth, more times than not, it gets us in trouble.
Come on.
Listen, I heard a preacher say one
our
time.
foot gets put in there.
You got two ears and one mouth.
That's what I was just about
There's
to
a
say.
reason. There's a
So you
reason.
can hear more than you speak.
Absolutely.
I was about to say that. I've heard preachers say that over the pulpit. That's why you got 2 ears.
But this is, I think, because this is an information age,
Yeah.
and everybody's overloaded with information, so they're always in a hurry to share or to make known what they know. You know, instead of listening and hearing. I done opened up another.
Listen.
This is why you're here. Go ahead.
Because communication is so important. That is, though, a byproduct of one's heart.
Absolutely.
If you ask me one of the top things, if you got a pen and paper, I'm going to give you a few things. Here we go. First nugget is, if you want to be a highly effective communicator, who's the book again?
7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
There you go. Now, that's a phenomenal book. But let's just talk about it. We are talking. I got a few things for you. Check your heart first. You have to know that there are more people for you than against you. Honey, who was that? What was that? He was like, there's more for you than against you. I'm thinking about several different biblical stories right now.
Yes.
You know, we always think we lead with a defensive heart often. So when you say that, Pastor D, that's what comes to me. If you know, if I know the person I'm talking to and the person I'm sharing my ideas with, and I'm listening to someone, if their heart for me is right and my heart for them is right, then why do I need to talk? I need to shut up.
If it's a safe place,
It's a safe
If it's
place.
a safe place,
Right.
there's quietness. When you're in a
It's
safe
peace.
place, it's peace. When
Yes.
you're quiet. You
So
don't have to
even,
have
you
anything
know,
to
so
say.
my goal is, if my heart is right, I want to listen. Number 2, listen better is better than speaking. We just talked about that. Number 2, getting an understanding.
Yes.
Being okay to be, and for me to get an understanding, the next thing I want to say is to be okay with being corrected.
Yeah.
We are so offensive. We're in a generation
wow.
now. So when you said that, Pastor D,
Spirit
it just,
of offense.
and it took me to shame.
Yeah.
It took me to shame, and I could do a whole thing about shame, because oftentimes so many people are shameful that we live bitter, we have bitter lives. We're always trying to be defensive of ourselves. So we're always on the offense, you know. It's like, you know what I mean? So when someone corrects you, you automatically receive it with an offended heart. Or it's like, what's wrong? Or you immediate to check somebody. Well, that's what I was saying. Well, this is what it sounds like. Or allow somebody to say, no, that is not what I was saying. And be quick to apologize. Hey, Mom. Hey, sister.
That's
Hey,
a
brother.
that's a
Hey,
lost
Nikki.
art.
Yeah.
Come on.
Art of
It is.
apology. That's
It
a
is.
lost art.
Like, that's what I'm saying. If your heart is right, you know, one thing I love doing to my nephews, and they'll tell you, is I apologize. I remember the first time I apologized to my nephew. He was like 5, 6 years old. And I did something, and it hurt his feelings, and I said, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. Can Auntie do it a better way? And he was just like, stuck. And he was like, nobody had grown up, they never said they were sorry. Now, how many of us are still little kids like that?
Yeah.
Stuck.
We're stuck because nobody won't say, I'm sorry.
My son is 35 now, and when he was about 5, I did something. I can't even remember what I did, but I remember apologizing to him. I remember his response. He said, "You don't have to apologize to me, Mom. I'm just a kid." And I told him, I said, and I do. Whatever it was, I don't even remember what it was, but I never forgot his response. In other words, because you're a kid, anybody could talk to you any kind of way and do anything.
That
He
mean
said,
we was used to that. Yeah.
yeah, you don't have to apologize to me. I'm just a kid.
Yeah, kids need adults to model
Yep.
that type of
Yes,
behavior. And when we
yes.
don't model that type of behavior, then they grow up defeated, or
They
they grow
learn from
up
us. They learn
feeling
from us, yeah.
they grow up feeling inferior.
Yeah.
They grow up
Yeah.
feeling, with low self-esteem. They go up feeling like they don't matter, like their feelings don't matter.
Yeah.
But we have to let them know that their feelings matter by telling them it's okay to acknowledge. I've told my bonus son, it's okay for you to feel sad. It's okay for however it is that you feel. You can even share it. You can say, I feel sad right now, and then explain why you feel sad. And if you don't want to explain it, guess what? That's okay too. You can tell me later, or you don't have to tell me. But if you're feeling sad and you communicate that, I respect it. And I can let you feel sad in the moment and let you know that I'm here if you need something.
Everything you just said,
Yeah.
I'm reminded how Jesus tells us to come to him as a what?
As a child,
And who is the greatest in the kingdom?
a servant.
Okay. Now, the way you just did that, how many adults need that right there?
Girl.
And how often would you like to be spoken to like that?
Girl.
And so if you think about that heart, the way you just did that was perfect. How often do we give that to our sister, to our friend, to our loves, right? To our mothers, to our fathers, people we're communicating with. If we used to notice a couple things, your tone, Nikki. So that's another thing in communication, is your tone. You can't speak to someone and want them to receive what you got to say. If you talking like this to them, if you want to be shaking your head, elevating your voice.
And then you say, I'm not mad.
I'm not mad.
I'm just passionate.
I'm not yelling.
Passionate.
For real.
I'm just passionate. I'm not mad.
Something I did triggered you, right? Back to what you did, Miss Nikki. Your tone was perfect. Your tone was soothing. Those that heard it on the radio, I wanted to lay a pillow in her voice, okay? Her tone was that soothing, right? And then while you were talking, even though you were speaking about your bonus son, you and I had this eye contact the whole time. I felt connected to you, right? Another thing we need in communication is eye contact.
Yes.
If I'm important to you, show me, April. If I'm important to you, give it to me. If I'm important to you, I'm looking in your eyes about it,
Yes,
right?
Yes.
So your
especially
tone.
if we're talking about something important. If you're having a conversation and you both understand the importance of the conversation, you shouldn't be on your phone. You shouldn't be, distracted. You should be giving each other the eye contact that you need, and that the other person can feel that you are in the moment with them.
You did it again.
Yeah.
The next one is immediacy.
Yeah.
What you are dealing with is immediately important to me. It's right here. I'm here with you. What you have to say is important. So I attend to you, right? And here's another one you did. If you are okay to feel the certain way, how oftentimes do we do things like this, Pastor Denise? You shouldn't feel like that.
Don't tell me how to feel.
Well, that's not what I said. For you to feel like that, that's something wrong with you.
Something wrong with you, yeah.
Right? You
Offensive.
said you gave the person, here's another one, communication. I'm giving you permission to feel a certain way. You said to your bonus son, if you feel sad about it, that's okay. How oftentimes in our communication do we invalidate people by making them feel, from our opinion, that how they feel is adequate, is right or wrong? So what you did with your bonus son, you slowed him down and said, hey, I'm immediate with you. I'm here, right? I'm reflecting about how you feel and I'm listening. Then I'm looking at you, let you know you deserve my attention. Then your voice was toned, right? And then you were humble. And then you validated feelings and said, if you feel sad, that's okay. Oftentimes, the sad feelings, or quote unquote bad feelings, we don't like feeling because we think they're bad. But the truth is, those feelings are deliverance. That's a whole nother story.
It's a whole nother road.
And you know what, too, Ray? For some of us that are adults, we grew up in an age where children were seen and not
Say
heard.
that.
And so we never developed the communication skills to talk about what we feel. We couldn't even identify, that whole feeling sheet with all the feeling words. We couldn't even identify, because shut up, that was,
That's real.
Yeah.
you bet. You better not.
That's real.
And so,
You talking to grown folks?
Yeah.
Somebody talking to you? Don't get it back. Yeah.
and so, when I listen to Nikki, the things that she's saying to her bonus son are things that a lot of children need to hear, because it frees them to be able to voice what they feel.
And the only thing I'm saying is that we all are big kids. Think
Yeah.
about what you just said. If you was a child and knowing our generational gap, our age gap, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're a child and you were spoken to like that, you're nothing but a 70-year-old big child still, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now it's important that if you never was taught how to listen and speak like that, guess what you're doing at 70? You be speaking and talking to people reckless. Not saying you, but I'm speaking to the person,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
people.
there are people that
We are big kids.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
why you see so many people don't know how to have emotional management.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Especially in men. Ryan, what do you have to say about that?
No, I think it all comes back to the importance of humility in communication. And I'm reminded of scripture where it talks about, not thinking of yourself more highly than you ought to, right? And we, as human beings, we struggle with, we either think too highly of ourselves or think too low. But it's that having an appropriate estimation and esteem of yourself. And when we get into communication issues, for instance, before somebody is done, right, we already have an answer, right? Well, a lot of that may be rooted in, you're not valuing what that other person has to say because you think what you have to say is more important, right, or more significant, or vice versa. We've been talking a lot about listening, but on the other end of things, how do you handle the people that don't know they have a voice? How do you handle the people that may not feel empowered to speak? So there's an element there where you have to also make space for those individuals as well, and it comes down to having humility even in communication.
When you say that, I think about other communication styles, which are passive aggressive, and assertive communicators. Again, I'll say them again. There are a few main types. They are passive, aggressive, and assertive. Sometimes we have passive aggressive as a subtype as well. But the passive person they come across, people who don't really look at you in your eyes, they hold their head low, kind of what you're speaking of, like people who don't really have a voice. But you make a mistake thinking passive people are foolish when they're not. Passive people sometimes are so humble that they'll put your needs before their own. And what an assertive person or aggressive person, not assertive, an aggressive person can do is keep using them and take advantage of them when it's not the fact that the passive person does not know what they want fully. They just are confident in what you want, so it's easier to help you, and that's going to get into a whole nother thing, okay? But passive
is that
people...
codependency? Does that lead into codependency?
Oh, my goodness. Listen,
I'm just
passive, I just want to say communication types is passive,
we stand right here.
aggressive, and assertive.
Okay,
The major thing with those are passive is oftentimes people may railroad you when you don't know what you want.
Yeah.
And the passive person may envy you because you always know what you want. So the balance would be what you were saying, Mr. Ryan, is giving people the platform with humility to say, come on, I really want to hear your opinion. And slow down and wait for it. You're worth waiting for.
Ooh.
I also think some people, based on your tones, automatically classify you as passive. Because I've been classified as passive, not because I didn't look you straight in the eye, but because my tone was soothing. When other people's tones would have been aggressive.
Yeah,
Because
people
in
take
my
your
mind-
meekness for being a
Right,
mice.
because in my mind, no is no.
Yeah.
And if I say it nice, it's still no.
Can you give me a nice no?
It's just no.
Yes! One more time! I love it. It's just no.
and it doesn't change. It doesn't change because, in my corporate world, it doesn't change if you give me an explanation. And as you give me an explanation, I'm looking at you, and I know the process and the policy, and if the policy says no, then okay, it's still no. And so I'm deemed as passive because I didn't get in your face and say, no, it's no.
Right.
I stated the same way. It's just no, I'm sorry.
But see, that is the misnomer of a passive person, is that they are ignorant. It's that they're less than. And that's not the truth.
Right.
They just decide
Katanji
that.
taught him, didn't she?
Huh?
Katanji taught him, didn't she?
She sure did.
She taught him.
She did.
Yeah.
She sure did.
Yeah.
Katanji Brown Jackson. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So then you have the aggressive person. And I'm going to say this too. I think aggressive people get a bad rap. They are viewed as if power dozers. I said that. When aggressive people are some of the most confident people ever. They know what they want and they take risks to get it.
Like in the disc
assessment.
The disc assessment, you know, if you they rake you if
you're dominant.
If you're dominant, you get. But you got to go with who God made. You got to understand. But you want to be the best of that you can.
Right. So
and
that's
you want
the
to be
issue.
balanced in that. Ryan,
Absolutely.
Ryan, to your point.
And as Scripture says, you want to speak the truth in
love.
Love, yeah.
You
Yeah,
want to
speak
speak
the
the truth
truth.
in love. And like you were saying, one of the first things you said was check your heart. Check your heart. Check your intent. What is your motive behind whatever it is that you're saying, whatever it is that you're trying to communicate? You know, understanding that the person that you're talking to may have a filter that can or cannot receive whatever it is that you're saying in that moment. And if they can't receive it, you have to be okay with that until they're either at a point where they can or where they're at a point where someone else can say it to them and they'll receive it better from another person.
That just reminded me of, back to your point also, I'm combining Nikki and Ryan about being humble, right? And if waiting on a person until they're ready, that's a lost art.
Yeah.
We are a microwave generation. We want everything right now. Roast don't taste good in the microwave.
Girl,
Okay? You know what I'm
cook
trying
too
to say?
fast.
Chicken, nothing tastes
you
good
know,
cooked in the microwave.
You know, what I'm saying, as in to
Heat
say,
it up.
you know, good food takes time. Good conversations, good loving, good relationships, loving from mom to child, loving from brother to sister.
Yes.
Good loving, husband and wife, best friend, good loving. You know, that's good love. That takes time. And it takes you waiting for one another. It takes you, watch this, deferring to one another. You know what I'm saying?
Preferring, yes.
Prefer it. We don't do that.
Yeah.
We have to value one another in the relationship.
Yes.
So when I'm talking to you, back to your example with your bonus son, it was phenomenal.
Thank you.
You're sharing with him, I value you enough to honor your moment. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then let people have their sad feelings. Oftentimes, I was going to finish, I forgot, was we're uncomfortable with anger. When someone is angry, we get uncomfortable. Therefore, we get anxious. So now we want their anger to shut down, as if anger is not a feeling that deserves a voice. There's something called a righteous indignation or righteous anger. What if their anger justified? Who are you to quench their voice? So just because you're uncomfortable with their anger feeling, that's their anger feeling. Oftentimes with children, we don't want them to be sad. Or if you really love them, so, oh, don't be sad, Johnny. No, let Johnny have their emotional moment. And no different that we're uncomfortable when our friends are sad. But sadness is a feeling that deserves respected.
Don't cry. Somebody did a funeral. They just lost somebody they've been married to for 60 years. And you talking about don't cry.
Man, we do that religious.
Yes.
God will be
Especially
there.
with boys.
Excuse me.
Especially with boys.
Quoting that stuff.
Gotta let them express their emotion, whatever it is. You gotta give them space and grace and time to express whatever their emotions are. And then just let them know that they're not inferior because they feel whatever it is that they're feeling.
And the more men they see in touch with their feelings, the easier it will become.
Yes.
You know, when men just are honest and just cry and just share that this hurts, you know.
Yes.
That's something. That's something.
It's attractive to see a man who can express himself and express his feelings and give not just emotion but give a voice to whatever it is that they're feeling.
Yeah.
It's attractive because you feel like that person is not only going to talk about the bad things, but they're going to express the good things when they happen as well, and they're going to express it with, you know, with vigor, with emotion and with passion. You see a person who can express themselves, you can see the passion behind whatever it is that they're expressing, and you can be attracted to that. I think women can be attracted to a man who knows how to express himself.
Ryan, as a man, is it hard to, what would you say being around men that's like really hard to communicate or express your feelings as a man? Because I think, back to your point, Ms. Nikki, men do struggle in that, or men have this thing like they can't cry. Back to what you were saying.
I think it's it's just not encouraged as much as it should. You know, that type of commentary that you guys just shared is rare. As men, we don't hear that often. If anything, it's the opposite. Be strong. Don't cry. If you cry, it's a signal of weakness. You know what I'm saying? If you cry, then not only is it a sign of weakness, but the opposite sex will also perceive you as being weak too. So whether you're raising young men, you know, you're in relationships with men, whatever those relationships may look like, those types of messages have to be encouraged.
Yes.
And those type of messages have to be made the norm, because in the world and in the culture, it's not.
You're right.
And society's hard on them too.
Ooh-wee.
Because you know, you're soft. You know, they start labeling you, and that can be very, very hurtful,
damaging
to a man. Very hurtful.
Yeah,
you know?
Jesus what? That's the first thing. That's the first scripture that they teach us as a child.
Yeah,
That's
but
right.
they don't call him Jesus. That ain't what they call him now.
no.
Oh, you know, it's funny because even with scriptures, you think about when we just use them, and we can use them out of context, and we can use them just whatever. And I just thought about that. Jesus wept is one of the first scriptures we use. Right. And the thing about we don't teach is that he wept appropriately. He wept at the passing.
Yes.
He wept at the funeral. He wept at the grave site. And maybe some other theologians believe he wept at the fact that the people may not believe he can resurrect them or get them out the grave clothes, whatever it may be, you know. But Jesus wept, right?
Yes.
We don't give people room to weep.
No.
The Bible, Ecclesiastes, speaks about everything is a time. Where is that? Chapter 3, I'm thinking?
Yeah, there's a time to
Okay.
mourn.
Yes.
There's a time to.
It's 3 and 11, right?
Yes.
Okay. So it's everything is a time. Nothing is new under the sun, but to everything there's a time. There's a time to mourn. There's a time to die. There's a time to root. There's a time to plant. It's a time. It's a time.
Yes.
So when people cry and stuff, it's a time for that.
Absolutely.
So does that mean because I'm a man I can't cry? Because you're a man. You know what I mean? You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, or
It's very attractive, by the way, dear. Very attractive.
or just allowing, like you said, just allowing people the space to cry and understand that they don't need you to try to fix them in that moment. They
Come
just
on.
need you to be there. They just need you to. They just need you to. You know, just be there. Just
Cry
be the
with
shoulder.
Them. Get a Kleenex and cry
You
with
know,
them.
Weeping Wanda had a ministry. I don't care what nobody say. You know, if nobody was gonna cry, Wanda was gonna cry. You know what I'm saying? But sometimes people just need that release, and they don't need you to, you know, pat them and tell them stop crying, stop crying, stop crying. No, they need that time of release because their tears are being collected by the Holy Spirit, and they're going to reap in joy. But you got to give them the time. If they never cry, they will never reap the joy.
Yeah.
Tears have a purpose.
And they're
All tears have a
counted.
purpose.
How can you believe?
Yes.
Can you believe God counts?
He counts our tears. He counts our tears, and that communication is
That's some good love right there.
necessary.
But you know what? It's so good to be on the side where you've been able to learn a lot of this, because when you came up in an environment where there was no communication, and so you had the skill set of being strong or dominant, you know, and so you just justified it. You know, you was like a bull in the china shop. I'm gonna tell you the truth, you know, and I just would go home and say, well, I told the truth, but I left a whole trail of people, trail of wounded people,
Right.
Yep.
you know, and then as you grow and God begins to connect your heart with who He made you, you know, and then you can understand. I can still be honest, but I can tone this way
Or
down.
you receive it. You know what I'm saying? Or
Yeah.
it happens to you. Like you want to have your moment, but then somebody
Yeah.
comes and drops some truth on you,
Yeah.
and then you don't want to. You can't take it because they drop it on you. Then you understand what it feels like for somebody to just drop something in your lap and expect you
True.
to deal with
Yeah.
it
Even though it's
without
true.
giving it to you
Yeah.
in love. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Even
Yeah.
though it's true, all the truth don't need to be
No,
spoken. Some
no.
truth just needs to be experienced or learned
Yeah.
or revealed at a specific point in time. But you can't always just drop truth on somebody
that God does
and
that. He
and
teaches
and
us.
just
I
think
love
that they
that.
have to deal with it because they still got a filter that they're dealing with, whatever it is. You know what I'm saying?
And I think that goes back to, you know, what we talked about earlier, speaking the truth in love. And a lot of times people don't understand the dynamic between truth and love and just how much they form the parameters for one another. You know, if I love somebody, then I may have a truth to share, but I'm going to ask myself, okay, well, is it the appropriate time to share X, Y, and Z?
Exactly.
You know, how far do I want to go with this particular truth that it may be valid? it may be fact, it may be accurate, right? It may be something that they need to hear, but love will temper that.
Yes.
Love will create some parameters such that, to your point, Pastor Denise, I'm not going to share something and leave, a whole trail of wounded people in the wake.
Yeah.
When you love someone, and I speak the truth in love, my goal is that you will overcome.
Yes.
So I join as an ally with you to say, here's the truth. And here's the love. We live in a society now, though, it's anti that. It says, keep it real, keep it real. But nobody want to keep it right.
Yeah, that's good.
Speaking the
That's
truth
good.
in love causes me not only to be real or what I think is authentic, but to keep it right.
Yes.
And you will know if you're speaking the truth in love, if when you're talking to the other person, you're building them up. So I would just encourage everyone in learning ways to communicate is start speaking to people the way you want to be spoken to. So pause. Because if I find myself, I don't like when people yell at me. I don't like when you don't listen to my full sentence. I'm uncomfortable when you scream or you just, I don't like it when you put down what I'm thinking or dismiss it. So why do we do that to other people?
Yeah.
No matter the age, why we do that to other people?
Right.
You know what I'm
right.
saying?
Joe is on YouTube. My husband is on YouTube making some comments. And one he says is crying is a natural byproduct of an animal physically expressing something. And then another thing he says is, why should we ever stifle a cry? Why would you ever stifle a cry? Because it's a release. It's a release of the pain. It's a release of negative energy. It could be a release of anything. It could be a release of hurt. It could be a release of joy. We cry tears of joy a lot, and sometimes, people fight tears because, they're in a specific space or they're in a place or wherever they are. They don't want to be seen, crying, but it's a release. And if they're happy tears or even sad tears, it should be okay. It should be okay wherever you are. You aren't hurting anyone else. You're expressing yourself and you're releasing whatever it is that needs to be released in that moment.
Madam Ray, I have a question.
The madam.
and so, in relationships, I found that I'm very enduring to try to work through a relationship. It takes a lot for me to just say.
You're aware, T.
Yeah, it takes a lot for me to say this one ain't gonna work, and I just gotta
Let it go.
I gotta let it go.
I just want clarity. Why, since you're asking me the question, if I may. When you say relationship, are you speaking of romantic or are you speaking of just any relationship?
Any relationship.
Thank you for the clarity.
If it was romantic or if it's just regular friendship.
Hey.
No, okay. So, but one of the things that will cause me to do that is when you minimize or completely whatever my feelings are. Well, why would you feel like that? Let's talk about why I feel like that. But don't, please don't take away that right to feel however I feel.
Right.
And I've put up with that sometimes for a long time before I finally say, this is not healthy for me. Because of the way it made me feel. I said, this is not healthy. And I finally had to just say,
Was it because you valued that relationship to the level where
I think that I did.
Where
I think
you
that I did.
wanted them to understand, and
it
it just never came. Understanding never came.
Never came.
And so,
And I had to say, gotta go. Gotta go
Wow.
for my health.
So when do you get to? Is your question? So when do you get to when you?
Is that? I guess
How
I'm
long?
trying to see, is that a healthy thing to do when you just finally say, should you just continue or should you just say, just can't do it no more?
What you're speaking of is boundaries.
Yeah.
Boundaries saves lives. There's a buoy in the middle of the ocean because its tail ships or those on the other side of the buoy that the waters are, if you cross over, the waters become shallow. You have to know, if you cross over with certain people, are you going to shipwreck because the water can't hold you? It's shallow.
Yeah.
Okay? What you're carrying is too heavy for the vessel that you're putting it into. Okay? Or if you're on the other side of the buoy, If you're in shallow water, you're going into the deep. Are you really ready to launch into the deep? Do you have what you're supposed to have? Is that deep for you? And if that deep is not for you, you would drown. It sounds like you're just filtering out people.
Yeah.
Sometimes people can't be with you in all ages and stages, right? But after you've spoken, quote unquote, your truth, you presented it many times to someone, I will probably encourage the person who feel like their voice is never validated, no one's ever hearing what you're saying as a particular person, I will probably encourage you to try all ways to get it to them. Maybe not just the way you're saying it, but a different way. Maybe they don't hear it from just for your verbal. Then go do a sport with them. Get their attention another way. I then try to find other means to get it to them. We've been reading this book, and the wife was trying to get the husband's attention. So what she started doing was breaking plates. So he thought she was going mad, and she actually broke the plates that she was going to discard anyway. She just did it to make noise to get his attention, to make a scene, to make it look like something's wrong. He like, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? She's like, now you see me? Okay, here's my issue.
Wow.
So sometimes
Now
we
you
have
put
to.
that phone down.
You'll put the phone down here, some broken plates.
Absolutely.
Who gonna clean up all this china?
Right. No different than you just gave an example like we do with our kids. We
Yes.
be like, give me that cell phone. Evidently, you're not hearing me. Give me the cell phone. Give me that game. You're not hearing me, right? In a relationship, so what you can do is pull back and say, okay, I'm ghosting for a moment. Okay, you want me to come that day? I'm not going to be able to come. Why not? I've asked you to come with me the last 5 times and you haven't come with me. Now today you really need me. So today I'm not coming. You can say it's out of spite, but I'm not coming today. Let them mull over it. Because they're going to start recognizing when you ain't there. Boom. Right?
And I think it was long term. I went through a lot of that stuff. But
Well,
I find
don't
it
abuse
just,
yourself.
No,
You feel what I'm
don't.
saying?
I
So you gotta
can't
walk
even
away.
tell you. Yeah, I can't even tell you the load that lifted. I can't even tell you.
That's what I'm saying. You got to
Yeah.
know the boundaries. Some
Yeah.
people, like go back to the buoy in the shallow and deep water. Some people can't handle your depth. And sometimes because of our hearts, it takes our hearts a long time to recognize what our mind already knew.
And some of that comes from wanting that person to rise. You want them to come up to a level or to come to an understanding. You want it so bad, and you believe that if they had this understanding, that your relationship would go to a different level. But they just either they don't have the capacity or they don't want the capacity. I think some people become comfortable, whether we might look at it as complacent, but they're actually comfortable and content where they are, and they don't want to expand their horizon, or they don't want to grow to whatever level, or they don't want that particular revelation.
They can't see it.
Or they or they want you to be where you are, or where they want you to be. And if you've grown to a different level, they might not want you at that level. You know what I'm saying? They may not be able to handle you at that level, but they still want to be in your life. And if they still want to be in your life, they still want you here. And you're like, no, but I'm here now. You know, I'm like you're saying, I'm out in the deep, or I'm no longer a quart size. I'm a gallon size now, and you're still at this quart size. Yeah, but I have this gallon that I'm dealing with, and your side, you know, you can't hold this gallon.
Can't quench my thirst no more.
You can't.
So
And I
for
think-
communication, boundaries are something that should be communicated in the beginning
Oh
of
yeah.
relationships. And
Or
so-
at the first sight when they do come up, they reveal.
And when you don't,
Sometimes you don't know though.
yeah,
You got to reveal
when
them.
you
Well, I'm
don't-
saying when a moment happened, I know I hear you, honey. But when a moment happens where you're like, that don't feel comfortable,
Yeah,
you have to respect yourself enough and trust the relationship thus
Yeah.
far
yeah.
that I need to share with you something about this that's not comfortable.
And I think it comes down to when those situations arise where you know that a boundary's needed, move swiftly in creating that. Move swiftly with it.
Yeah.
I think we get in trouble when we recognize a boundary's needed, but for whatever reason, whether we're
Communicate
fearful of losing the relationship entirely, a lot of times people are just fearful of losing that person or that relationship, that we don't move as quickly as
What
we ought
God
to
has for
quit.
you is for you.
we dumb down. Like, I can be honest. We dumb down.
And that's what I was trying to say. We fail to communicate. We know that we need to communicate boundaries at this point, but because we're afraid or dumb down, whatever, we don't communicate.
What
And
God
when we
has
don't-
for you is for you.
There you go. Come on, sing that.
Yeah.
Man, whatever the song, what God has for me, it is for me. You gotta know that.
Yeah.
You gotta know that. So
This
I
is
can't be
true.
afraid no more to speak my voice. I'm gonna tell you in this last nugget, cry loud and spare not. That's scripture.
Yeah.
Speak your voice.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
rather you speaking and get your truth out and then to just be nullified and shut down. And the last thing, if I could give anybody with communication, is take your time. We would feel like the Rome was built in a day. It was not. The world was not built in a day.
No.
Yeah.
Everything you need to talk about with someone, even in an argument to figure it out, does not have to be solved right now.
Right.
We can agree to disagree. That's another thing with communication.
Yeah.
We can agree with disagree. Let with us disagree. Did I say that right? We can agree to disagree.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
The ideal
Absolutely.
is that we both have an understanding. That's what
Yeah.
the Bible says.
Yeah.
Wisdom is the principal thing. Don't forget the first thing we said was wisdom. Wisdom may not be to finish the argument right now. We on Vent Radio. Me and him could argue right before we got here. Wisdom says we'll finish it when we get off this dang on mic.
Exactly.
You know what I'm trying to say?
Exactly.
Right, but to
Exactly.
everybody else, we're a unified front. You know what I'm trying to say? That's
Absolutely.
wisdom, okay?
Right.
Yeah.
The Bible
Yeah.
said because why? Because, get that understanding.
Yes.
The understanding is what we have to do right now is greater than that
Right.
little petty stuff. I just want to say sometimes we so petty.
But you know what, Renisha? That the argument, not the real argument. This wasn't real. But let's just say it did happen. But it could be for another time for another group of people. What you guys dealt with, you might need to communicate that to another young couple down
Absolutely.
the road. to bring-
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So it's.
But our issue is real.
Yeah.
Next time I come, I was mulling over today, and was really in my heart, the thing that stops us, I think, is shame.
The difference between guilt and shame. There's guilt, but that shame is ugly.
It's ugly.
Yes.
And it's
Because
going
we
to take a
become
whole
the
It
thing.
sticks.
We
It
become the
makes
thing.
roots.
Yeah. We
And
become
because
the thing.
going back to some things you were saying in the past or how you dealt with a thing, and you talked about when we're communicating, we got the two people in the room right now. We here in the room, right? I'm looking at Miss April. But when we're talking, it's just not Miss April I'm talking to or RiMisha she's speaking with. I'm speaking to April's mom, her dad, her household. I'm speaking to grandma. I'm speaking to everybody that's an influence in her life that helped aid to the epitome of who she is now, what she believed by her experiences. So it's important when she's talking to me, she's speaking to the exact same thing. Renee is in the room, Larry's in the room, okay, Mo, Sean, Case, they're in the room, right? As in the way I have been raised, right? So when we're talking, we got to filter out what if you, what if me, and everybody else we bring with us.
That's a lot.
That's a
That's a
whole
lot.
lot.
That's a lot.
Okay, you hear what I'm saying?
Yeah,
That's a
that's a
lot.
whole
That's
lot.
why if you notice when you get deep with people in layers, the pain gets deep, right? The tears coming out, right? That's why it's important. Even when people, you just recently got married, right? Nikki, when you been married now, you got to undo. Now you and Joe is creating your own family.
Absolutely.
You are really becoming one, right? So now you got to be able to discard stuff that didn't work with the other ones.
Hello.
You hear me? Did you get it?
Oh no.
Just one, not one.
But I'm saying with the other ones, like, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
with other ones, meaning the family, meaning
Yeah,
exes, meaning all of
yeah,
that,
yeah.
because you're creating your own culture together as
Exactly.
you and Joe.
Wow.
Yes.
That's what we don't recognize. When I do counseling, especially with couples or children with families, and I do family counseling, I always do genograms. I need to know what was the culture with mom and them. We think black culture is a culture, but there are subcultures in black culture.
Yes.
We
Absolutely.
think, you know what I'm saying, white is a culture. There's subcultures. You know, your family has its own culture. An
Yes.
example, my family don't talk about personal stuff. We sit at the table and we don't talk about, you know, who you was with intimately or who you dated. We don't know that part of your life, right? Compared to his family, they talking about, girl, Jonathan came over last night. They telling your business at the front table. That's your culture. If I'm with you, you may feel like, oh my God, I can't believe she told my business. But in my family, that's normal. That's a Monday morning conversation. You know, my mama challenged me about something, you know, in the door. Why you got this, da 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 da? To somebody, to me, that's my mama. To me, I'm used to it. So it's like, I hear what you're saying is, move that, RiMisha. That don't need to be there. Ain't that what I told you? Okay. Okay. To somebody else it is, oh your God. Mother is
Running your
house.
house.
Right? Yeah.
She over there running your house.
Yeah, and that she could be running my house. But she was right, though. You know what I'm saying? But that shows you the difference.
Yes.
So now when I talk to you, and I speak the truth to you, and you be like, I can't believe you said that to me. I'm just offended. I'm used to that. Because that's how my grandmother, that's how my mother, that's how my father, that's how my brothers, why we talk to each other.
Right.
So I'm not trying to offend you. May I use something, dear?
We got 1 minute.
I can't use it.
Sorry.
Next time.
Oh,
Next time.
I'll tell you off the mic.
Say better hell.
You can come back. I mean, you know, you can always come back. You can always come back.
Honey, listen.
Come back.
You know, the need for mental health and talking is so important now.
It is.
Wow.
That if you want me to come back every month, I donate, I'll come.
Wow.
Because it's so deep, especially in our community.
Absolutely.
And people are not talking about it like this in platforms and different
I'm
discussions.
over here saying, yeah, like my name is Willow Smith. I'm over here, yeah.
I cannot. Listen, we hope you
Just
have.
go smack.
I cannot. I'm not going there. We hope you have enjoyed this open conversation about communication, because we need these types of conversations. We need people to come together. Come now, let us reason together. Let us talk about these things that hurt us, that hinder us, because a lot of times communication, or the lack thereof, can be a strong hindrance in a person moving forward in their lives. And so we thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Ray. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah, my
I
pleasure.
appreciate you. I appreciate you
Thank
for joining
you.
us today. Thank you
Thank
again.
you.
Ooh, Pastor D, thank you as always. We hope you enjoyed the conversation. Let's talk about it again. We can talk about it some more, and we will. And we're also going to have a whole male panel
Hey.
coming soon. We're going to
Let's
have
go.
a whole male panel coming soon.
Bring the fellas out.
It's going to be interesting, okay? I want you to look forward to that. Thank you so much. Enjoy your day here on Sunday after service. Inspirations Event Radio for Empower Sunday. Peace out.
Love it.
Sunday after service inspirations with Nikki Jones. Nikki Jones. Sunday after service inspirations with Nikki Jones. Mrs. Jones.